Hey, good evening, you all. Welcome to Fired Up. I'm your host for the show, Bob Irwin. We are broadcasting on KSHP Radio 1400, which you know if you're listening at the moment for drive time. We're here 5 to 6 p.m. And we simultaneously broadcast on YouTube at Fired Up with Bob Irwin. So you can pick up the show there whenever and watch it. They stay on YouTube forever. If you missed it on the radio, it's gone. So you need to go to your computer to find the shows, and we are there every show we've ever done, going back 4 years now or something like that. We are here talking about guns, politics, and self-defense issues. Generally, self-defense issues, they're a big deal in the news right now. Lots of criminal activity, like terrorist attacks and so on. With me tonight to discuss some cases we pulled up are, to my immediate left, murder defense attorney Clark Patrick, who is with us one more time, specializes in defense of murder cases. And hopefully you never meet him in his professional capacity. And also homicide detective, now retired Phil Ramos, who we also hope you never meet him in his professional capacity.
We'll be okay at this point.
Clark, a little bit of your background for new listeners who are not aware of your legal expertise.
Sure, Bob. I grew up in Montana, long time firearms, always around firearms, a lot of hunting as a kid and still to this day. Did a stint in the late 70s, early 80s with the United States Army and as a tank commander. And for the last 10 and a half years, I've been practicing law here in Las Vegas, doing solely murder defense.
As I said, you don't want to meet him in in his professional line of duty. Phil, a little background from you, please, if you would.
Well, I did 33 years at Metro. The last 12 years were in homicide. I handled upwards of 330 homicide cases, and I can't even tell you how many suicides. And I've been retired for a few years now, and just on occasion doing a little bit of private work, but mostly just taking it easy.
All right, that's about it. That's good. Anyway, we do take questions and comments to the show. If you send them to bob@firedupmail.com, I think we have that one of these signed. There we go, right there. We don't take live calls because of the time difference between the radio show and the YouTube show. They're off a few seconds and it just comes over as garbled. However, if you have a question or comment on the show, you can drop me an email at that address. And if it's something for Phil or Clark, I will forward that to him. Just send everything to bob@firedupmail.com, and we answer everything that comes in. This show, as I said, is about guns, politics, and self-defense issues. There are several hundred defensive use of firearms cases every week in the United States. A lot of argument over those numbers, but it's up in the 300 or 400 range somewhere. They usually aren't covered by the mainstream media, especially where it's done right and nobody's hurt. Nobody cares. And it gives the left the ability to say, look at all these shootings, because they never report the good part, what guns are used for self-defense. So we always start out with a few of these for education of our listeners. Some are good, some are questionable. Once in a while, there's one that's really stupid. But I try to pick these cases out as food for thought for people who keep a gun in their house or carry one for self-defense, to what would you do if this happened to you? And Phil can talk about the criminal issues involved, and Clark can talk about the defense issues involved. They're all food for thought. So we're going to start on that, and you can imagine what you would do if you were in the situation. That's the point of using the stories. Later on, we're going to talk a little politics on gun laws and things like that. But we always start out with some of these. As I said, this is in St. Tammany Parish Sheriff's Office in Louisiana. This was reported on the 25th, yesterday actually. 3 men are in jail after an armed resident stopped their attempt to rob him at his Sidell area home on Sunday night. One of the 3 men approached the residence on Acacia Drive at approximately 9 p.m. He claimed to be having vehicle trouble and asked the homeowner if he could use the telephone. This sounds like a case out of the 1950s, right? It's actually current. When he attempted to enter the home, after asking that, he apparently tried to push his way in the door. He was stopped by the homeowner. A second man who was wearing a mask came up from behind some bushes, pointed a gun at the homeowner's face. The homeowner pulled his own gun. They exchanged gunfire before the two men ran away and drove off in a dark-colored pickup truck. Late last night, the abandoned pickup was found located in New Orleans East. The truck had a bullet hole in the rear passenger side door, and inside the cab, police found a mask, duct tape, and latex gloves. The two suspects are guesstimated to be around 30 and 40 years of age. They were located Monday at a home in Lacombe. They've been booked into the St. Tammany Parish Jail for attempted armed robbery and use of a firearm. Pretty standard thing, except I can't imagine in this day and age somebody opens their door to a guy saying, "I need to use your phone."
Right.
I'm wondering how big this town is, because in those small towns, there's not the mistrust factor that we have in the bigger towns. And
might well be.
Yeah.
It seems like a really nonsensical thing to do. Advice would be, I'll call you a tow truck.
Right.
And when they say, never mind, call the cops, because that was an attempt. And I mean, this has got to be just scary as hell for the victim when they later discover the guy's carrying duct tape and gloves and another mask. When the first guy didn't have a mask and could be identified by the victim, what does that tell you?
It tells you they weren't planning on leaving any witnesses.
Yeah, that's that indication. Guys pushing your door in with masks on are one thing. Without masks, it's a really, really bad sign.
And although we always advocate to be aware and be ready to respond and have situational awareness and stuff like that, how much more comfortable can you be than sitting at your own home, in your living room, and all of a sudden there's a knock at the door? That's just probably one of the situations where you don't expect to have any kind of confrontation.
Yeah, and this was
to have any kind of trouble.
9 p.m. It wasn't 3 in the morning, which would give you a whole different set of parameters. This guy clearly saved his own life.
Yeah, he did.
If you have a concealed carry permit or you're allowed to carry where you're living, carry your gun always. This guy apparently did. Where would you be if this happened to you? That's the question of this show. Are you prepared for this kind of thing? The gun store, as I say, does offer free concealed carry permit classes every Monday, Wednesday, and every Saturday. You can find our classes on our website at thegunstorelasvegas.com. The classes are running really full now with all the stuff that's going on. So you probably want to get on your computer and go to thegunstorelasvegas.com. You can sign up for the class online to make sure you have space. We hold about 50 people in that class, and they have been full completely basically since San Bernardino.
Wow.
So people are concerned. This is from KMGH TV7 in Denver on the 24th, a few days ago. They reported in Littleton, Colorado. This is another one of these, I can't believe people still do this. A homeowner was selling an item on Craigslist. You ready for the rest of this, right? Two men went to his home on Sunday in response to the ad. The Jefferson County Sheriff's Office said the men overpowered the homeowner and tied him up. During the incident, the victim got free, grabbed his firearm, opened fire, hitting and killing one suspect who died at the scene. Apparently, the second suspect stole the victim's car. Deputies are searching for a man in another vehicle who sped away. Indicative there was more guys, as usual, than you can see.
When trouble happens, they never stick around to help their friends.
He got his gun out. He was able to protect himself. The only problem is the police are looking for that type of vehicle with bullet holes in it because apparently the resident fired at the fleeing vehicle.
Oops.
We don't know, if he hit anybody. First thing, I mean, don't have people meet you at your house or meet people at their house if you've got something on Craigslist or one of those sites that you want to sell. It is an open advertisement. This happens once a day in every major city in the United States.
Right.
Especially if it's a high dollar item.
Sure.
You know, if you're selling something for several $100,000, that's going to make people want to take advantage of that.
And you're bringing, if they're selling something, they talk you into, I've got to do a cash deal because I'm leaving town.
Right.
So they drag you to their house or house that is abandoned they're standing in front of.
Right.
And they tell you to bring cash and meet you almost always after dark.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to go, are you that stupid? But, I hate to, those are the people I'm defending, but
Right.
Real customers who really want to buy or sell something on Craigslist or whatever, and we're not trying to pick on Craigslist, this is all of them basically. They've started to become another Craigslist robbery because of the name there. Real customers, real buyers, or real sellers are be delighted to meet you at high noon in the parking lot of the police department. And when they come up with some excuse they can't do that, don't meet them somewhere else.
Right.
It's just common sense.
These two cases are so nonsensical in today's world that you would open the door to somebody whose car is broken down or invite somebody to your home or go to their home with a Craigslist ad that basically says, please come rob me. I'm just back. Anyway, questions or comments, you can direct to Bob at firedupmail.com. Please friend us on Facebook if you would be so kind. That's on the other side of this little sign. We turn over every once in a while because I always forget. Please friend us on Facebook. We will then send out notices to you when we've got certain things on, certain guests on to bring you up to speed. I also want to add, we have added to our repertoire of classes here at the gun store a basic pistol class that's a little beyond, it's not for concealed carry permit, it's basically just how to care for and shoot your gun, and an advanced class which takes a little bit beyond that, which deals with drawing from concealment and things like that concealed weapon holders need to know. Again, class information, sign-ups, thegunstore.lasvegas.com, and they'll take care of that. We're starting this whole series of new classes in February next month, which is a few days away. So look on there. There's a lot of stuff. We're going to be running classes every day except Tuesdays. We've left Tuesday open so we can clean the classroom and
Pick up the brass.
have special events and things like that. Occasionally we get private concealed weapon classes and so on, or where we want the classroom open. So Tuesday's our day for that. Every other day, theoretically, the classroom has got something running in it. Lots of new stuff. Check the website. A little website called Connect Savannah, where we find these all kind of places, reported on the 23rd of this month, this was a couple days ago now, in West Savannah, Georgia, detectives are investigating a shooting that injured a victim approximately 3 a.m. in the 1600 block of Bay Street, if you know where that is in West Savannah. Police arrived at the scene, found a 31-year-old suffering from at least one gunshot wound. The victim stated he was standing outside his motel room. He lives in the motel, is the issue here. I mean, not an issue, but that's his house. He was standing outside his motel room when he was approached by an unknown male who pushed him inside the hotel room and demanded money. Once inside the room, the two men struggled and the suspect took the victim's concealed handgun away and shot him with it. The victim is a licensed person to carry a concealed firearm. The suspect fled the scene with the victim's weapon. He was treated at Memorial University Medical Center for non-life-threatening wounds. Really hate to see these two.
Mm-hmm.
You can't do much if you're standing outside your motel room, your house, smoking a cigarette in the middle of the night. This is 3 a.m. though. We should be a little bit on
Guard,
yeah, paying
aware of what's
attention,
going on, especially in front of a motel.
looking around, and anyway, and the guy gets up close enough. We don't know how, asking for a lighter, a cigarette, or something, to shove the guy into his own motel room, and the fight's on. There really isn't a good way to stop that, except everybody that walks up to you, you slam the door and call the police. Again, this is a small town in Georgia, probably a little laid back, but he's carrying his gun or draws his gun in such a way that the bad guy is able to get a hold of it.
Right.
This is kind of pistol class, getting enough distance. We always tell the cops this, keep the guy out of immediate grasp range. Probably got buried with that in the police academy even 30 years ago, Phil.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
You got to keep your personal space clear so you can draw your firearm, and you carry it in such a way that now we have all sorts of locking holsters we didn't have years ago. Where you need to draw the gun in a certain way or push a little button that's on the side of the holster or on the gun or something that holds it so you don't lose it in a fight. Pretty straightforward. If you're attacked, very likely it's going to be a surprise, and you're going to find that you're already knocked to the ground or already pushed into the wall or something as you realize you're being attacked. And if the gun comes loose or it's hanging out there somewhere, as in this case, the bad guy's probably going to take it. And if he takes it, he's probably going to shoot you with it.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised that this wasn't a fatal shot. With the bad guy having the gun, taking it away from the licensed carry guy. He's lucky that he's not dead.
Very much so.
And this apparently is just a random robbery. There was no reason for them to think this guy had any more money. He was just standing out in front smoking. He doesn't want to smoke in his room. Maybe it's a motel rule. You can't smoke in the room. But that's all well and good. But you got to be aware enough if somebody is skulking around out there that without insulting them, you put your cigarette out and walk back in your room and don't open the door.
Right.
Some of the social situations are so close, and you don't want to hurt, somebody's feelings, or I backed away from you because you're black or you're an Indian or you're white or whatever. You look like you're in the wrong neighborhood, whatever it may be. Everybody's sensitive to all that stuff now. But keeping your eyes up and watching what's going on. Again, this guy is lucky he wasn't killed. And I would point out, being as I'm being the firearms instructor on this panel, practice getting your gun out when you're in a bad position with an empty gun. That is a gun you've looked at 3 separate times to make sure there's no round in the chamber, there's no magazine in it, etc. Both no magazine and no round in the chamber. That's our common accident, is you pull the magazine, even though you've done this 20 years, and you forget to check the chamber. People do. But have it on the way you carry and fall down on the ground. See if you can get the gun out while you're laying there before you have to with a guy on top of you with a knife.
Right.
Learn whether you can do that or not, and how to, do a shove and shoot. Put your palm in the middle of the guy's face and smack him as hard as you can to be able to back away slightly to get distance and so on. All of this stuff we do now in our advanced pistol class. I would love to see some of you sign up for that. We can only hold 12 in each of those classes because we do a lot of one-on-ones. So I was also going to mention that we have a ladies only shooting and personal safety class twice a month now, second and fourth Thursday of each month, taught by Maggie Mordaunt, who's a frequent panelist here. Next class is on Thursday, February 11. You can sign up again on our website, thegunstorelasvegas.com. We only hold 12 because we try to use one bay in the range and play coaching people with them. If you're afraid of guns, ladies, you want to carry a gun. I just got a call from one of the stations here 2 hours ago about the number of women they're seeing in concealed weapon situations and concealed weapon classes. It's okay to defend yourselves now, ladies. They expect that.
Absolutely.
So the training's available. Please take advantage of it. Don't just buy a gun and then figure out if it works when the bad guys do. It's a lot of this is just keeping your head up and paying attention. And for women, it's different. Your clothing is different and so forth to carry guns and hide them and get them out and so on. So we brought Maggie in to do that. She does a great job. If you get into that class, you will love that class. It's on our website, thegunstorelasvegas.com. I think Maggie will be here next week, actually, a week after next week. KTRK ABC 13 News. This is in Seabrook, Texas. A resident said he had company over Friday night, 5 adults and 4 children. That was the total in the house. When 4 uninvited masked men arrived with weapons in hand. He grabbed his gun, put his children and the visiting children in the bathroom, told them to turn the light off, shut the door, and don't make a sound. Good idea. He said that one man pushed the barrel of a shotgun through the door. We're presuming the door is now partway open rather than actually through the door itself. He reports there were 2 more men. One carried a handgun, the other a machete, and they demanded money. He then fired at the men. During the ensuing gunfight, his house guest was struck in the back and later taken to the hospital. Bullet holes were seen from inside the home into the garage door. Apparently they came through the garage here. People say the men ran from the scene but were followed by some of the victims. Discussion. 2 of the 4 suspects were arrested by the police who were looking for a 3rd man who was carrying a weapon and the getaway driver. So actually now we got 4 perps. Always more bad guys than you see. The 2 arrested so far are charged with aggravated robbery. And I'm going to make a comment on this case before we get any further. You look at 3 or 4 armed people kicking in a door on a Friday night of a residential house. Our immediate assumption is a dope house. Right. Is a dope deal gone bad. This is dope territory, something. That's not the case. The details of this stated that the 2nd adult male, the guy who was visiting with his children, armed himself with a kitchen knife when these guys started trying to come through the door. That eliminates my first assumption that this is a drug deal gone bad or some drug seller's house. There were no drugs involved. This is really just this extended family and friends in their house on Friday night, and it's apparently an absolute random home invasion.
Wow.
Really scary.
Well, and here's the other thing that's indicative of the randomness of it is that it doesn't look like all these 4 guys that showed up. The attackers, they weren't all armed with handguns.
They
had a machete.
Yeah, if they were all drug dealers, they'd all have guns. If this was a dope house, they'd all have guns.
Yeah, so I mean,
you know, the part about them being followed by the victims, I know you wanted to talk about that, and hopefully they, the victims weren't shooting unless it was the homeowner that had a gun, and you never shoot at people running away like that. And A, you get in trouble if you shoot somebody running away, and B, they still have guns and they can shoot back still. Not a good idea. Now, and that could be a little misleading if one of the victims maybe ducked outside just to catch maybe a license plate and wasn't running down the street after him.
Right.
Maybe, but following somebody that is armed and that is running away is never a good idea.
No, it's a terrible idea. And if you get caught up in the heat of the moment and you're defending yourself, and these guys that invaded your house are running away, even though they're armed, even though there was an armed confrontation inside your house, and you chase them down and you shoot them, that's not self-defense, man. You are in trouble. You're going to be calling this guy.
That's exactly right.
You will be criminally charged for that act.
If you're in a house now where you live and you've got 3 or 4 small children, teenagers, whatever, what we would encourage is you have a plan in case something like this happens. So you don't have to suddenly go, okay, all the kids up in the bathroom, get in the tub, turn the light off, don't make any noise, et cetera, so the bad guys don't know where you are. That's a great idea. It's an even better idea if they know it ahead of time. You say the code word, invasion or whatever. The kids know they're supposed to go to this point of the house and stay there, so you know where all your children are.
Right.
They're not running around in the middle of a gunfight going hither to yon. You don't have one son hiding in the bedroom downstairs and two more upstairs and so forth. We had a case like that last show or 2 shows ago, where the family split because they all went to different places talking. They never talked about it.
Yes.
And we tell people, most people know that you should practice for a fire. Have a fire drill practice. If there's a fire, everybody meet here or know where to get out. You need to do the same thing now in this day
Exactly.
we live in. You got to practice a home invasion drill. I mean that it's sad that we've gotten to that point, but if something unexpected like this happens, somebody's got to know what to do.
Yeah, just from a home invasion or just a plain vanilla burglary.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
What do you do if something happens? Where do the kids run? Where do you meet up? And if you ask your family that now, 2 kids will say, we'll go next door to Fred's house. The other one will say, I'll call grandma and run over to her house. And you have kids all over the place and nobody knows anyone's missing. You assume they've been kidnapped and all that sort of thing. So have a plan. Kids, grab your cell phone. Every kid in this house should have called 911 and said, help, I hear gunfire. And so the police can get there and stabilize this stuff before somebody gets hurt. The point of this is just a family gathering with a whole bunch of kids, and anybody can be a target of home invasion. Certainly anybody can be a target of burglars, but this is a home invasion.
Right.
I mean, this is really lethal stuff. Again, questions or comments, you can call, you can't call, that's the point. Send a text to bob@firedupmail.com or send an email to bob@firedupmail.com. And please friend us on Facebook. We will answer your calls by texting or sending you an email. If you're planning a corporate event, you can add the thrill of machine gun shooting. Boy, last week with the SHOT Show here was like nuts. Contact Melissa at thegunstorelasvegas.com and she will set you up for your corporate event. We do large groups. We have 30 lanes here. We can accommodate all sorts of groups and so forth. A couple of tragic cases now. Not everybody does stuff right in shootings. We've dealt with a couple of people firing at escaping bad guys. Understandable, and you get away with it because you didn't hit them, so nothing bad happens. Some of those cases would come up very different if they managed to hit the guy that was running away. This is KATV television in Little Rock, Arkansas on the 22nd. Now we're getting to almost a week ago. In North Little Rock, a homeowner has been charged with manslaughter in the death of a 29-year-old firefighter. The shooting happened at 5 a.m. in the 200 block of Dorch Loop. A witness told Channel 7 News, now this is third hand because their family's not talking to the press. Good idea. Attorneys always get excited when you talk to the press. Don't talk to them.
The worst is when you watch the news and they have those guys in jail and they're doing interviews.
Exclusive interviews.
That just
exclusive here on Channel 7. He'll explain why he killed this guy. Yeah, that'll help. Anyway, witness tells Channel 7 News a volunteer firefighter, this is the town is called East Pulaski, volunteer firefighter, was responding to a medical emergency at the shooter's home after his wife reportedly called 911. Her husband was having a seizure. The witness, who was the first in the home after the shooting, he's a neighbor, said the shooter was reportedly standing in the doorway of his bedroom, was coming out of the seizure. He mistook the first responder for an intruder. He fired his gun and unfortunately killed the first responder. the latest break on this was that they have determined to charge him with manslaughter. Clearly, it's not a premeditated first-degree murder. It's not, wouldn't even fall into a second-degree murder. But
how do you get a hold of the gun anyway? It would seem that this should have been secured somehow, unless this was the first time he'd ever had a seizure and it was completely out of the blue. Usually, seizure disorders have been going on for a while, and he should have had the gun secured in the spot, knowing that if I have a seizure, I cannot get to this gun because
he's clearly not thinking. Clearly,
and his wife, you have the great comment here. If he has the gun when the wife calls 911, you should tell him, look, he has a gun. He's not dangerous, we don't think, but you got to use some caution coming in and do something different than just popping in.
This is, if he's having a seizure, he's coming out of it. He's acting like a disoriented drunk, basically, who may react to anything. And you got to warn him when you call 911. My husband carries a gun, which is fine, but he's had a seizure and he's probably got his gun on, or some warning so the paramedics can, and the police following right behind. The paramedic was the first guy there because he heard the call and went over there.
And the other thing, though, on this one, Bob, is that every 911 dispatcher is trained. One of the very first questions you ask a 911 caller is, are there any weapons in the house? Are there any guns in the house? Because people in a situation like that will forget to notify.
Right.
When you have something traumatic like that happening, you're going to forget, oh, yeah, we got 3 guns under the couch or something like that. That's why the 911 operators are trained to ask if there's any weapons or guns in the house.
And possibly not in East Pulaski.
Probably.
This is a very rural area, apparently. A very small department. Trying to read the police report. It was written, like a high school kid would write an essay. They don't run into this all the time in their town. You got a disoriented guy holding a gun. Nobody's really the bad guy here. It's just tragedy all the way around.
Just reading this, if there's medical documentation that he was exactly going through an episode like that, that's a built-in defense right there for this guy.
Yeah, they're charging with manslaughter, and I think that's kind of a catch-all at this point.
Well, and that's why they charge him with manslaughter, is because it's clearly not a murder. Yeah, there's no intent, and depending upon what the laws are in Arkansas, we have both voluntary and involuntary, and this certainly would fall under the involuntary type statute here in Nevada. It's still a homicide, but the bottom rung of the homicide ladder.
Yeah, and sometimes they don't fall into the neat niches. That's why we have juries, and we have grand juries to look at things, and we have prosecutors and defense attorneys to both go, look, it should be this way. The gun store, we have our own wedding chapel. If you don't know, we offer some really memorable shotgun weddings and vow renewals. Quit laughing, Phil. You just, I
get a kick out of that every time, man.
If you go to thegunstorelasvegas.com and click on special events, you'll see a whole thing there of weddings and vow renewals, and it's really cool. And you just, if you see we're having one, you should attend it just for grins and giggles. It just says.
Yeah, I just had a great idea though. You could have a Clive and Bundy lookalike be the officiant.
I'm still working on an Elvis guy, and we have one available. If you want to have an Elvis wedding in a shooting range, we can actually do that. This last case I had pulled down. This is a really sad case, and it's been adjudicated. We've got the results from the court, and it just came down on the 23rd in San Mateo County. This is in Foster City, California, where the issue is. This is after years of litigation. The San Mateo County judge tentatively ruled the man was justified when he shot an intoxicated intruder who accidentally entered the wrong house. The criminal case has already been adjudicated that the homeowner was within his rights to fire. had a guy trying to crash through his door. The civil case is looking at, of course, what else could he have done? Why was the guy crashing through the door, and so on. Representatives of both sides entered an agreement. The defendants, at the home of the defendant's elderly parents around 4:30 a.m. A couple of years ago now. The family, of course, the guy was not in trouble criminally because he reacted to what he saw, a guy trying to crash through the door and whatever. But they did, of course, file a civil lawsuit because the guy was a drunk who didn't know what house he was at. The defendant awoke in the early morning hours, a strange noise, found an unknown man trying to get in his front door. He, his wife, his 12-year-old son, and two elderly parents were all at home. Scared for the welfare of his family, the man grabbed his father's gun, his father's gun. Mm-hmm. The wife dialed 911 as he loaded the gun and told the rest of the family to hide in the bedroom. So far, so good. The man and his father then heard the intruder jump the side gate and come around the house. Leaving the lights off, these two men watched as an intruder came through the unlocked garage door into the kitchen. The 24-year-old intruder, it turned out, he weighed 210 pounds, stood 6'4".
Big guy.
Was shot 3 times just moments after entering the home. Unknown to anybody involved at the time, the police had silently arrived just a few minutes before the shooting. They're going to come sneaking up, hoping to catch people running from the house. And then the other thing, and there's questions on police tactics, whether you want to scare the guy away or you want to try and catch him. And the departments will have different policies on that. An attorney representing the injured intruder, he didn't die, said his client had incurred more than $500,000 in medical bills, was disappointed by the decision. The judge's opinion is tantamount to saying if someone enters your house, regardless of the circumstances, if they're uninvited, you can shoot them.
I take exception to that.
Yeah, he noted several doors at the home were unlocked, and his client was so intoxicated he thought he'd entered his friend's home. Here's the rub. In leading up to the account of the intruder, who was not very experienced with alcohol, but out drinking with his friends, he then ended up passed out in his friend's vehicle. The friend is like the designated driver. He's a 19-year-old, so he wasn't drinking, they say. Anyway, he's staying at this 19-year-old's house, which is next door or 2 doors down from this house where this happened. So the 19-year-old designated driver parks his car in front of his own house, told the intruder to come in when he was up to it. He was too big and heavy for this 19-year-old to carry in a house. Despite having been to this house on many occasions, this guy was so intoxicated, when he woke up, he got out of the car and went to the wrong house, which is 3 doors down the street. The court determined that the friend, the designated driver, is 25% at fault for these damages, and the intruder himself is responsible for the rest of it. The homeowner who fired was not held responsible, which is what the attorney representing the
homeowner,
the victim, is yelling about. And you can shoot anybody who comes into your house. This is a really tough case. You look at where do you start? It takes a lot of things going wrong for something this wrong to happen.
Yes.
Yeah. And you look at this whole thing and go, if they'd only done this one thing, I immediately jump on warnings.
Maybe yes, maybe no. If he was that
drunk, he wouldn't have.
Warning may not have, or may have heard him and not comprehended it. I think at 4:30 in the morning, somebody breaks into your house, whether your door is unlocked or not, because burglary does not require a locked door. I think at that time of day, and he had to be making noise if he's A, that big, and B, that drunk. He's not being quiet, sneaking in. So it's going to sound like somebody doing a home invasion like the last case we had.
Exactly.
There's one little entry here that caught my attention. If he was inebriated to the point where his friend left him in the car and for whatever reason he couldn't function, he still had the wherewithal to hop the fence and work his way around.
Well, this is apparently an hour or so later when the guy came to. They didn't give me the time span, but there's a delay in here.
Yeah. The warning's always something that you should absolutely try and do time permitting. You know, I mean, the guy's crashing through the door coming at you. You don't have to say, hey, 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 hey. You just
Right.
defend yourself.
No, I mean, the homeowner's
But in this
okay
case-
criminally.
Yeah.
That was dismissed right off the bat. He
Mhm.
clearly, had reasonable cause to believe he
Right.
was in danger, his family was in danger,
Danger,
and he could fire his gun. The plaintiff for the other side doesn't agree with that, but I'm sorry, that's just wrong. He's just making smoke.
Yeah.
So, what we've got here, though, is yelling may not have worked because the guy was so inebriated.
Right.
But it would have been nice to try just to see.
Well, and
Yeah.
and when the civil suit comes along, you can it's something else to say. I yelled, he
Yes.
kept coming, so therefore.
Well, this is the civil suit.
No, that's what
Yeah.
I mean. I mean, in the civil suit here,
He could have said that. He didn't.
Yeah,
He didn't claim to have yelled anything.
but if he did, then that's more ammunition for his lawyer, so to
to
speak.
say, look,
To
we
say,
tried.
look, we
Yeah,
tried.
it helps with a defense if you call the police, if you yell at people, you warn them off. Any of that stuff helps
Well,
prove that it was self-defense.
Yeah,
Right.
I think the majority of these elements we're all in agreement with, but I want to get your thoughts on this judge blaming the friend for being 25% responsible.
yeah,
What do you make of that?
that's a little strange. I don't
This
know.
is California.
Yeah, that's about the only thing you say about that is California. And it seems like it may have a chilling effect on people wanting to be designated drivers.
Well, exactly.
Because it's no different this than you designate, you drive somebody and you leave them in the car and they go out and do anything, then you're going to be 25% responsible for it.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of like, you're the designated driver and the guy's combative and yelling at you and you pull over and let him out on the side of the road. And then he gets run over and
yeah.
you're responsible
Right,
for his
yeah.
death.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I mean, it's kind of related to that.
it is.
Once you've taken the guy, if this was a police officer that took the guy into custody, clearly they're responsible
Oh, yeah.
because that's their job.
Job,
Is to
sure.
make public safety. This guy, it's not his job. And I know, and we look at, I know everybody's looking at this going that would the homeowner's insurance cover this guy for the civil
A
damages?
lot of times, not so much.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Unless you have a specific thing in there, because this is not an accident. It was a
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why I pulled this up, because now the homeowner or the designated driver is looking at the suit rather than the homeowner. But would the homeowner's insurance have covered him? It's really unlikely.
It is very unlikely.
You have to understand that your insurance covers you for accidents. It covers you for negligence. You made a whoops mistake. That ain't here.
Well,
This
here
wasn't
you may
an
have the
accident,
negligent,
and it was. He
you
shot
may
him
have
on
the
purpose.
negligent argument on this one, but normally for an event like a shooting, you meant to shoot him.
Right. Yeah, it's an intentional
and,
act.
And I think you can see the wheels of this judge's going back to the judge. You can see the wheels turning in his head. He doesn't want to blame the homeowner because the guy's protecting his home, and he doesn't want to blame the guy that got shot a whole bunch. So that only
He's
leaves
too
one
drunk to
last.
know what he's doing.
That only leaves one person to give a little blame on to help it out, and so
So he's on the hook for 25% of this $500,000 medical bill. And
Well, like we had mentioned earlier, this
you
being in California, I'm surprised they didn't sue the manufacturer of the car for not, keeping the guy
faulty
locked
locks.
into-
Yeah. Well, he
Not
could
having a,
defeat the locks
trunk
drunk,
lock.
and yeah.
or not, the guy didn't have a smart gun that wouldn't work when
Right,
he needed
yeah.
it to work and so on. Yeah, anyway. Want to mention, anyway, you can send in your comments or calls, text to bob@fired-up-mail.com. That's back over on this side. I always go to and turn that around. And please visit if you have some printing needs to be done. My friends at American Printing downtown on Fremont Street. Look up American Printing, downtown Las Vegas. They do nice work. This is not a paid commercial. I just like them. They're a family business like the gun store is. Been in business the same amount of time as we have. Been around a long time, do good work. We're 10 minutes out, so I got some other gun news. This is just kind of me spouting off here. The Atlanta Journal reported this week Jane Fonda just gave a big boost to Donald Trump's campaign by starting an anti-Trump movement. The group called Stop Hate, Dump Trump has Rosie O'Donnell and Michael Moore among the names behind the movement to oppose presidential hopeful Donald Trump. Yeah, and all truth here on the air, I'm actually at the moment backing my ex-Pop Warner player, Marco Rubio. Yes, I was one of Marco's Pop Warner coaches. And he looks just the same today, same height, everything. Very bright guy. I like him, but the point of this, I'm considering switching to Trump because anything that Hanoi Jane hates,
Right.
I automatically like.
Got to get behind anything like that.
Yeah,
This
well,
is just,
I'm surprised that she still considers herself relevant.
Right. Yeah, she hasn't been for a couple
And
decades
actually,
at
yeah,
least.
who cares what Jane Fonda thinks? And for that,
And Rosie O'Donnell and Michael Moore are right in the
Mhm.
same basket there.
yeah. Anyway, this is from CubanBearArms.com. A proposed bill is in Idaho right now to do constitutional carry, so you won't need a permit in Idaho. A lot of places in Idaho you don't already. They have kind of a funny system up there. But if it passes, and it looks like it probably will, the governor will sign it, Idaho will shortly become the 9th state to
Excellent.
have constitutional carry and allow everybody to carry a gun if they're allowed to legally own one.
Good for
They
them.
get to carry one. Their street robberies and whatnot will drop like a rock, as it has in all other states that have done this. Constitutional carry is a good thing. And I say that cutting my own throat. We train people for concealed weapon class here, and it would not then require training.
Now,
There's a downside there. I
constitutional-
think everybody should get some training. But
Yeah, absolutely. Constitutional carry
means
means you can carry concealed.
Concealed.
it means you can carry open or you can carry concealed without a permit.
Okay.
Some states take it to mean open carry too.
Mhm.
It depends on the way the state laws are worded. But constitutional carry means if you can legally own the gun,
You can
old enough,
stash it.
pass background, or you're not a criminal and so forth, you can carry concealed. Right now, the biggest state doing it is Arizona. They've had just not even a bubble in crime increase because everybody's nice.
Right? Yeah.
Some
You
guy-
never know.
Some guy has his car in the wrong gear at the signal. He backs into your front end. You don't jump out of your car and run up there screaming, "You dumb devil!" They're very polite.
Like those two knuckleheads in Austin that had the road rage incident that were beating each other with bats and sticks, and it was caught on video.
Nevada News and Views reported this week an Al Qaeda explosives expert whose invention of the shoe bomb endured him to Osama bin Laden and airlines everywhere was freed last Thursday from Guantanamo Bay. Tariq Mohammed Ahmed El Sawa, a 50-year-old Egyptian, once taught bomb making to Al Qaeda members and so forth, and created a special floating mine for U.S. ships that are floating around the Gulf. He's released due to his deteriorating health and his cooperation with U.S. officials to undo some of his damage. That's nice. Somehow I just don't feel safer. If they kept this guy there all this time,
And kept him longer, I'd be
Yeah.
good with that.
he's deteriorating. I understand he's old and sick and so
I wonder
on
what
and so on.
airline he's going to fly back to Egypt.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's a bit of a problem. And I'm not sure that the people we kept in Guantanamo that long they need to be released, but we're releasing more.
Right?
GOP USA said on the 24th, The View host Whoopi Goldberg said a possible Donald Trump presidency, here we go with Donald again, signals it's maybe time for her to move out of the country.
Good. She can take Jane and Michael Moore and
Rosie O'Donnell.
Rosie O'Donnell with her.
Ms.
on the
Goldberg
bus.
was responding to a claim by fellow co-host Joy Baher that the Republican presidential frontrunner has a lot of Democratic tendencies if you look at his record. Whatever gets the anti-gun lefties to move to Canada or whatever is good with me. Maybe a discount ticket for Hannah Join and her,
Yeah.
and we can
We
start
can,
like a
we can get a
website.
bus. We'll get a bus.
Get a family
And,
discount.
And we'll drive him to England.
A moment on terrorism. There are attacks all over the place. If you read the papers at all, if you are caught in a terrorist attack, first try to run. If you can't run, hide. If you can't hide and you can't run, attack the terrorist and fight him any way you can. A number of courageous citizens attacking all at once can overcome almost any armed terrorist. He's going to kill you anyway. So always carry your concealed firearm. If you've got one, better to have it and not need it than the other way around.
And if you don't have one, get one.
Get one.
It's just, I'm going to skip over and go to my little closing thing here now. We're about 5 minutes out. Next gun show is Crossroads of the West, March 5 and 6 at Cashman Field. Rocky Mountain is still looking for a new venue. They're going to call me as soon as they have one. They intend to continue their shows. They'd like to be somewhere in the Henderson area. So they are going to do that. We'll be back next week from 5 to 6 right here on 1400 AM radio and YouTube at Fired Up with Bob Irwin with guest murder defense attorney Clark Patrick.
2 weeks in a row?
Again,
How'd that happen?
I don't know. You volunteered last month and this is next month.
I got to talk to my secretary about how she schedules me.
Well, you're going to be, she sent me a note, said you can do the first and whatever. So you know,
That's
I didn't
fine.
look at last week's schedule. Just wear a different tie. Nobody knows the difference.
Right?
And we're going to have firearms instructor Lenny Davis, always entertaining at State Department firearms instructor for
Lenny
training
Davis.
anti-terrorism. Thank you for listening to KSHP 1400 AM radio and watching us on YouTube. I will, we've got about 2 minutes left, so I'm going to go back to this. National Shooting Sports this week said 2015 was a successful year for their Project Child Safe. They gave away 300,000 safety kits, expected to reach nearly 23,000 individual and organizational supporters. What they do is give out a kit to let teachers teach gun safety.
Nice.
And just kind of give the outline and turn them loose. It's not as organized as the NRA Lady Eagle program, but the idea is to drive awareness through events and media stories, and it's dedicated really the program to getting the media to carry gun safety stuff,
Very
get
cool.
school districts to carry it. They're anyway distributing these free safety kits with gun locks, examples, and safety messages. For training your kids directly, the gun store does offer our Eddie Eagle gun safety class. It's for ages 5 to 11. Fourth Friday of each month. It's absolutely free. One of the classes you can find on our website, thegunstorelasvegas.com. If you have, this is designed for kids 5 to 11. It's not a gun class. It's a don't touch a gun class. We encourage everybody with a child in that age bracket to bring them to the class. If they're not, they're at the age where curiosity is what causes the accidents.
Yep.
They find a gun, you think you hit it, it didn't work. They find it.
Find it.
They,
Don't touch it.
And
Tell
even
your
if you
parent
don't,
or
even if you
adult.
don't have guns in your own home, you know, your kid's going to be visiting other homes where there are guns that you may not even be aware of.
So it teaches your children if they find a gun, stop, don't touch, leave the area, tell a responsible adult, rather than touch it or play with it or whatever, because they're assumed to be too small. If I wanted to run a story every week on some child finding a gun and shooting themselves
All the
you
time.
know, it's easy to do. The parents are always just, you know, they blame themselves. They should blame themselves.
Right?
And it's, you know, like leaving ant poison under the sink without a child-proof cap. You know, it's just, you can't leave guns, but you can train the kids, hopefully, if they see a gun, to come tell you. We are going to be back next week, as I said. Same time, same place.
Same people.
You and me, we'll get a new third guy over there.
Okay.
And we will be back. I thank you very much for watching and listening to Fired Up.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Night.